Hello, my name is Taya Graham. I'm the host of the Police Accountability Report. I'm here with my colleague and co-host Stephen Janis, and we have breaking news on the George Floyd case in Minneapolis. His lawyer, Benjamin Crump, has just released new information. They have gotten an independent autopsy that contradicts the autopsy they originally received from Hennepin County. So can you tell us what you heard in this press conference and some of the differences in this new autopsy?
Yeah, it's very interesting. They determined after doing their own independent autopsy that he died from compressional asphyxiation. In other words, from the downward pressure put upon his neck and the downward pressure put upon his back by the officers, and that was the main cause of death. They contradicted, or at least took issue with, the findings by the Hennepin County medical examiner, who said that he probably underlying conditions caused his death. But the independent autopsy concluded that it was compressional asphyxiation which killed George Floyd. In other words, the downward pressure on his neck, the downward pressure on his back that's shown in the other video, and that's what caused his death. And so it creates an entirely different run. And they also concluded that the death was a homicide at the hands of another, which means it can be criminally charged as murder. So these are very important developments. And it was very interesting because during the press conference, there was, questions asked about why are you differing with the Hennepin County medical examiner. And here, let's listen to what they had to say, and let's listen to their conclusions about what they think killed George Floyd.
The cause of death, in my opinion, is asphyxia due to compression of the neck, which, as Mr. Crump indicated, can interfere with blood flow and oxygen going to the brain.
We do have physical evidence that supports that there was pressure applied to his neck. And it's in this combination with the additional medical information that we have, including examination of all of the other organs that were available to us in making our determination of cause of death.
And his calling out, like Eric Garner, but also including calling out for his mother, who had been dead for 3 years. None of this caused a release of the pressure. And that is very disturbing.
The sections of the vessels that we examined were clear of atherosclerosis. The sections that have been retained, we will examine once they can be made available to us. We have not had the opportunity to review the actual preliminary report from the medical examiner who performed the autopsy. We have seen accounts from the complaint, and based on that, yes, our findings do differ. Some of the information I read from that complaint state that there was no evidence of traumatic asphyxia. This is the point in which we do disagree.
But Stephen, this contradicts the partial findings released by the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office. So what's going on here?
Well, what was really interesting in the press conference, they brought up the fact that the Hennepin County Medical Examiner said there was no sign of traumatic asphyxiation. Right. And therefore, they were trying to hint at the fact that it wasn't asphyxiation. But the medical...
Is that also why they brought up possible underlying health conditions as well?
I think it's meant to be a continuum of like, hey, this wasn't caused by the police officer. But the independent autopsy commissioned by the family took issue with that and had a very different conclusion, and said that they did find abrasions on his neck and abrasions on his shoulder and other things that contributed to his death. Let's listen to that.
We do have physical evidence that supports that there was pressure applied to his neck. And it's in this combination with the additional medical information that we have, including examination of all of the other organs that were available to us in making our determination of cause of death.
And I'd also like to add to that when the doctor was discussing this in the press conference, he noted that they had sections of the man's heart. They took a look at the sections, and they saw that he had no signs of arterial sclerosis, that he indeed had a very healthy heart. So these underlying conditions don't seem to be apparent now that there has a second pair of eyes on them. Now, earlier we spoke to noted pathologist Dr. Cyril Wecht, and he took issue with what the earlier medical examiner had to say. Maybe we should take a listen.
If you commit a crime that results in somebody's death, then you don't say, if he were Clark Kent Superman. So I believe this should have been signed out as compression asphyxiation, compression asphyxiation due to prolonged pressure on neck, and then even put the period of time in there. He was not going to die that day from his heart disease, was he?
Right.
He wasn't going to die that day if he didn't have a goddamn pressure of almost 9 minutes on his neck. So just think about it. You don't have to be a doctor to understand that. I don't know what in the hell. I'm really upset about this, and especially failure to wait until the brain is examined before you make a statement that there's no physical evidence of asphyxiation.
Are you surprised, because I've talked to you about many of these cases, that police keep doing these compression on people in prone position given how dangerous it's proven to be?
Yes, I am amazed. My God, you've got him handcuffed, and you've got several policemen there. You sit the guy up, you prop him up against the wheel, the tire, the fender of his car, and he's sitting. What's going on here? What the hell is he going to do? What the hell is he going to do? Is he going to get up and run away? Is he going to shoot or stab or kick you or bite you? Or what is he going to do? I mean, so that these cases continue is amazing, absolutely amazing.
So, Stephen, we've covered other
Right.
cases like this of positional asphyxiation, of compressional asphyxiation, or traumatic asphyxiation. One case in particular really stands out to me, and that's the death of Anton Black on Maryland's Lower Eastern Shore, in which case, once again, they implied that this 19-year-old healthy young track star somehow had an underlying heart condition that led to his death, that it wasn't that he was tased, it wasn't that he was chased, it wasn't that he had an over 200-pound man laying on top of him, that it was his underlying heart condition that caused his death. Do you see some sort of pattern here?
Yeah, there's exactly a pattern. We did an investigation where we examined 3 deaths, including the death of Cyril Wecht, who is a Baltimore resident who, again, had compressional asphyxiation on his body and died. And again, the medical examiner said, no, there was no evidence. It was an underlying condition. This is a pattern where medical examiners who people have said are too close to the police, throwing out these sort of underlying conditions and ignoring the evidence. And in this case, I think, this independent autopsy shows again that this is a problem, and this is a problem that people have talked about to us and that we've investigated, and certainly seems to be, problematic in terms of the process of investigating police deaths.
Actually, haven't we actually had police officers present in the room with the medical examiners while they're conducting their examination?
In the case of Anton Black, in the case of Tyrone West, the police officers were in the room. Some of the police officers, supposedly and allegedly, who were taking part in his killing, were in the room. So yes, there is incredible allegations of bias in this process, and I think it's problematic.
So, Stephen, you reached out to Hennepin County for comment on this. What did you receive?
Well, the specific question I wanted to ask them was, had they ruled out positional asphyxiation because they made this pronouncement that it wasn't traumatic asphyxiation? I said, have you ruled out this? And her comment was no comment, which I think is illustrative because they were willing to leak other details, right? About it's not traumatic. They were willing to leak details about his underlying health conditions, but they were not willing to talk about compressional asphyxiation, which is exactly what the independent autopsy found. So I think that is quite revealing, the fact that they didn't talk about it.
As George Floyd lay dying, his last thoughts were of his mother. As a matter of fact, the last words out of his mouth were mama. He was calling out for his mother, who had actually died 2 years earlier. If that doesn't show you his humanity, if that doesn't show you what's wrong with our criminal justice system right now, if that doesn't show you the humanity that we should be recognizing in each other, I don't know what will. My name is Taya Graham. This is Stephen Janis. This is a Police Accountability Report. And please be safe out there.